So you're hearing all about this coronavirus outbreak, and this is not meant to be another scare video or any prediction of what's going to happen in terms of the virus. But, one thing this has reminded us about is really to think about contingency planning. And from a business standpoint, what do you do when there's a disaster of any sort, whether it's a power outage or a natural disaster, or in this case, this coronavirus? Now, this is something that we talked about internally, and we've actually had a couple clients reach out to us and said, hey, how should I prepare for this? And we thought, what a great idea. Let's make a quick video about this and kind of share our thoughts. I put together a little PowerPoint with a few slides just to kind of go over some of the best practices about how to plan for your business for this coronavirus. We hope we don't ever have to get to this point, but what if it becomes an outbreak in the country and there's quarantines and things that we're seeing in China, right? And we're seeing this starting to happen in other countries like Italy, for example. Kind of has you stop and think as a business leader and go, okay, what should I do for my employees, right? How should I communicate this to them? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and let's take a quick few minutes here and kind of go over the best practices of what business planning should there be from your end when it comes to this coronavirus, or as the CDC's called it, COVID-19 crisis, right? So really quick, should we be worried? And this is I'm not a doctor, obviously. I'm in IT, but should we be worried? Some quick stats. This is definitely something to at least be concerned about, at least to talk about, perhaps with your employees. And yeah, there's quite a few, nearly 90,000 cases worldwide. This is from a website called worldometer.info, and some stats we just took from the website as of yesterday, March 2nd. So there's been nearly 3,000 deaths worldwide. It is serious, obviously. In the U.S., I believe as today, we have about 60 cases and I think 2 reported deaths. So again, I know many people that I speak to said, hey, the flu is way more deadly. And that's true to this point. So just to kind of keep in mind, we all have our opinions about it. But the thing is there's definitely some sense of unknown. Obviously, we've seen it affect the stock market, whether rightfully so or not. Again, those are opinions. But the stock market has had a tough run. The Fed just today decreased its rate in emergency setting, which hasn't been done since 2008. So again, it kind of has you stop and think about it. And on a personal aspect, my wife just went to the store, and then I've heard this on the news ever since. There's a run out of water. There's a run out of hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes. And sure enough, again, I'm hearing that on the radio. So whether there is cause to panic or not, the reality is it is affecting the economy. It is starting to affect business. So here, and most of our clients are here in the U.S., just take this time to stop, pause, and think about, okay, wait a second, what if things got a little bit more hectic? How would my business continue operating, or at least go into a contingency plan? So again, the stats are here. Hopefully we see these numbers decrease and we keep it to where we don't have a real major outbreak here in the United States. Numbers by country, again, I talked about this a little bit. Of course, in China, it's a terrible outbreak. They're getting hit the hardest. It's obviously the epicenter of this outbreak. But here in the U.S. so far, it looks like we've got about 89 cases, 2 deaths. Again, these stats were as of yesterday. I pulled this off of Worldometer. But feel free to visit that website, sort of check it for yourself, just to kind of keep on top of it. Again, we listen to the news and, maybe sensationalize a bit, but here are just the numbers and the straight facts. So I do like this website. And again, if it hasn't become a topic in your company already, I'd be surprised. And a lot of clients of ours are talking about it here in our office. It's talked about. And so we kind of want to at least spread the basic knowledge that we know about. And this is probably just for any cold or flu season, but the basic tasks of hygiene, clean your hands often, encourage that in your office. Again, I know this is not IT or disaster recovery planning, but definitely a nice thing to stop, pause, maybe take this type of graphic and email it to your employees and just remind them, say, hey, this just, again, not to freak out about this COVID or coronavirus, but just in general, if you're feeling ill, if you've got a fever, stay home. We encourage you to stay home and not come to work. Here at the office, make sure you wash your hands. If you're sneezing, all these sort of things, the best practices, in terms of keeping the office clean, as healthy as possible. Again, regardless of this coronavirus outbreak, just how to stay the most productive as possible as a business and staying healthy is probably good tips. But the medical side of this apart, let's dive into how do you protect your company, right? In terms of, it's kind of hard to avoid it. either is going to break out or not. But how do you protect your company during this particular crisis or any crisis in general, right? So start thinking about the what ifs, and maybe you have a plan like this in your business. I know it's something we talk to our clients about, and we usually just focus on the data. What's my backup plan? What if the server goes down? How to continue operating? But a lot of this has to go deeper into your own operations, right? Do you have a disaster plan in place? If you don't, it's definitely, again, use this corona outbreak as a reminder of, hey, I should probably have a plan. Can your staff easily and securely work from home? Maybe some of you already have certain people that do. So for them, it'd be pretty easy if something were to happen and they can't access your building, they can't come to work, they already work from home. But do you have the capability to switch all employees that need to continue operating doing that well? Maybe even if they're not feeling well. That's something actually we encourage in our company, regardless, this is way before the coronavirus. If someone's not feeling well, we have the capabilities to go ahead and work from home, right? Of course, let us know. If they're obviously very sick, of course, take the day off. But if they're just not feeling quite well, maybe they're getting over something where normally in a normal setting they would come to work. We encourage them, just go ahead and stay a day or two extra at home, work from home, right? We can be just as productive. We have those tools internally, and we know some of our clients do as well. Some common examples would be like a VPN. If some of you use Citrix, we know those of your clients, a lot of you use Citrix and have cloud-based applications, remote desktop. Those are great. If you don't have something like that in place, start thinking about, okay, how can we connect to our systems? What operations can be done remotely and what cannot, right? Obviously, some of our clients are insurance firms, law firms, they do professional services, accounting. Really, they can work from anywhere. An internet connection and a computer, they can work from anywhere. Obviously, if you're in manufacturing, something of the case, and again, we're using this coronavirus as an example, but we'll get to some others in a bit. Anything that might render your location not usable, whether it's a power outage, fire, flood, what can't happen, right? Do we have inventory to keep us going for these type of scenarios that happen? Obviously, if we're shipping product and we can't, okay, that's one thing. That's going to hurt our business to a certain extent, but we can at least keep customer communications going, employee communications going, and keep that part of the business running. What departments would be affected? Have all that documented, right? Kind of the what-if scenarios and what would be affected. How would you handle phone traffic and routing, right? Again, is your system capable? Is it cloud-based, or is it based in your building? If there's a power outage, is your phone system down? Or is it, again, more cloud-based to where you can automatically route to people's cell phones, right? Or their soft phones on their computers and continue working that way. So that, again, from a communication standpoint, if something were to happen and your employees are not able to go to a particular office that you have or your main office, can communication still happen with customers? And again, communication is key even internally. Do you have collaboration software? Many businesses I've worked with have been using things like Skype for business. Microsoft Teams is a bit newer in the last couple of years. Slack, Yammer, any of these type of instant messaging, or what we call UCaaS, Unified Communication as a Service, right? Where we can do video chats, we can do phone calls, we can do screen shares, we can work on documents together. Again, to where we don't have to be in the same office or in the same building. I'd really encourage, if you have those tools, make sure staff knows how to use it from different devices so that if something happens, you can communicate out to your team very quickly. And then, obviously, may not be at the top of your list during an emergency, but is your data secure during those times, right? Do you still have control over your data, even though people are accessing from different locations? Do you have things like MFA? We did more than that in another video. Are you able to monitor data and log it? Who's accessing what? Because just perhaps maybe it's something minor, let's say like a power outage for your building for a few days, you still want to be able to manage your data and make sure you're not having inappropriate sharing of your data, as an example. So, one of these things we look at is it can be a natural disaster, right? Here right now today we're talking about it because coronavirus. It's all over the news. Everyone's talking about it. But some of these things happen. We've dealt with customers over the years, and it could be a fire. It could be, here we're based in Southern California, earthquakes. Knock on wood, we haven't had a major issue, but it can and has happened. And unfortunately, there's a chance it would happen. So if there's a major earthquake, even if our building isn't affected necessarily, but People may not be able to come to work for a few days. There could be freeways that are affected. Things to think about. Bad storms, hurricane. A lot of clients that are on the East Coast and Florida, we've had to go through that before. Unfortunately, this one hits pretty close to my family and some customers in the Tennessee, Nashville area. They just had a major tornado. I think in the Nashville area, there's about 100 buildings that are affected, right? So there's obviously things like retail, restaurants, but corporate businesses that have no building to go to, right? So maybe you may not live in an area that has tornadoes, but you may be in an area that has one or more of these. Here in Southern California, I can tell you right now, earthquakes are definitely a thing. Power outages happen more than we'd like. And of course, fire, floods are things that aren't planned for. So kind of think about that. Is my data protected? Do my employees have ways of communicating with each other? So again, just a quick overview of what a contingency plan should consist of. And it's just really to get your thoughts going. Sit down with your team, sit down with your management, discuss the what ifs. Of course, now we have this coronavirus here today. It's something that people are kind of on edge about. Is it going to bubble up into something bigger? Take the time. You're watching this video, sit down with your staff, have a 30-minute meeting, start brainstorming ideas. Do we have the things in place? Obviously, if you're a client of ours, reach out to us from a technical aspect. We can make sure you have everything in line or how you use the tools that you maybe already have. If you need help from an IT perspective, you don't know us, just reach out to our website, zetasky.com. You can contact us that way. You can talk with one of us, one of our engineers, and just sort of maybe run through some scenarios just to make sure you're safe. So good luck out there. Remember, wash your hands, stay clean, encourage your employees. Hey, if they're not feeling quite right, of course, give them the tools to work from home. I think that's the best way to get past this. So thanks for watching. And again, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That definitely helps us out. And we'll see you in the next video.